From Normal Guy News, world headquarters in a tiny apartment, this is Normal Guy News with Tony.
Hello, and welcome to Normal Guy News. I'm a normal guy, and this is the news. I'm still experimenting with what this show is going to be, and I'm going to try today to have a little bit less structure and talk a little more from the heart. But let's go ahead and start out like we always do with a rundown of what the mainstream news would have shown you yesterday. There were some deadly storms. Apparently, Trump is very close to an Iran deal. A former governor unlifed his wife and himself. Some astronauts went around the moon in the Artemis II mission. A cop chased someone on horseback. A pole went through a bus. And in today's feel-good piece, a bunch of eagles, baby eagles, were born. There you go. Now you don't have to watch the news. Are you aware that we went to the moon before, supposedly? You know, there were 12 Apollo missions to the moon. And did you know that, if you haven't seen the Y-Files episode about the moon missions and whether or not they were real, there's a lot of great evidence there, a lot of great information. And it's not speculation. You know, the Y-Files does a great job, as other podcasts have done too, of documenting what really happened there. And there are actual high-level NASA people who say, quote, "We had the technology to go to the moon, and then we lost it. We had that." Do you believe that? Because I don't believe that. We had technology, and then we lost it? No, that's not true. You know, it's also like they say that a lot of the original tapes of the moon landing are gone now. We can't examine them now. We can't look at them because they taped over them. Now, I understand that there's such a thing as human error and we all make mistakes, but think about the precision with which we pull off our military maneuvers in this world. Didn't we think that was maybe the biggest moment in human civilization history? I don't believe that. I don't buy it. I'm sorry. I know you're trying to sell us a story that we definitely landed on the moon in 1969 and then we lost the technology and we couldn't get back to the moon for 57 years. And some of you guys are excited about this. Oh, we're going to the moon. Why? Why are you excited? We went there 57 years ago. We went there before, as long as I'm 52 years old. I've been alive a really long time. Many people see me as an old man. We went to the moon before I was even on this earth. Sorry, guys, it's not that exciting. We didn't lose the technology. I don't know the truth. I don't know the answer, but something smells funky with the whole moon thing, in my opinion. And next, did you hear that J.D. Vance talked about disclosure? Disclosure is a big deal right now. And it's been a big deal to me for many years, really all my life, because I heard about these stories as far back as, it goes all the way back to maybe Roswell or even before. And I've always been fascinated with going, hey, why are there these parts of the world, of existence, of humanity, these parts of life itself that we don't understand? And we all say, nah, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. It's no big deal. Why do we do that? J.D. Vance, he had an opportunity to do that. And instead of saying, well, I'll just let you see what he says.
You're going to release all the UFO files?
We're working on it. It's funny. When I came in, I was obsessed with the UFO files. And then you start getting really busy worrying about the economy and national security and things like that. But I've still got 3 more years as vice president. I will get to the bottom of the UFO files.
All right. So J.D. Vance says he was obsessed with it when he first got in there, but he just got really busy and he's had a lot going on.
Have you peeked? Have you done a peek?
So I actually haven't. I
the
have
full
not.
Independence Day.
I have.
So the interviewer asks him, have you had a peek at it at all? And he says, no, I haven't even had time to peek at it. And boy, he seems like he's really having a good time. There's a lot of laughing. He's very jovial, isn't he? He's really having a good time with this topic.
I have not been able to spend enough time on this to really understand it.
Yeah.
So, okay, so he hasn't been able to spend enough time on it to really understand it.
But I don't think
Yeah.
they're aliens. I think they're demons anyway, but that's a longer discussion.
What? Wait, hold on. Okay, so he hasn't had enough time to research it, but he's going to. This is the vice president of the United States. Can you imagine being in a position like that where you say, I haven't had time to look at it. I'm fascinated with it, but I haven't had time to examine it. But I'll go ahead and tell you, I don't think they're aliens anyway. I think that they're demons. That sounds about as fishy as this moon mission.
You know,
I did not.
Look at how happy he's having so much fun in this interview where he says aliens are demons and then he's just laughing. What a joyous time that he's having there. When people are laughing, it's usually because they are actually enjoying a moment, or sometimes they laugh out of embarrassment or because they're uncomfortable. I wonder which one it is for him.
So you think they're demons?
Well, look, I think that celestial beings who fly around, who do weird things to people.
Right. Celestial beings who fly around to do weird things to people. Right.
There are weird things out there. And there are things that are very difficult to explain.
Yes, there are things that are very difficult to explain, right? But you went ahead and tried to explain it anyway and gave us your opinion when you have no idea what you're talking about. Thanks, JD.
And I think that one of the devil's great tricks is to convince people he never existed.
One of the devil's great tricks is to convince people he never existed. All right. Well, so that's what we get from our vice president of the United States of America, one of our leaders who we trust with trillions of dollars to make sure it's all handled correctly, and the guy that we trust to decide who we're going to bomb, what kids we're going to kill, what people we're going to unlife. This is the guy we're trusting. Okay, now look, I'm not political. I don't care left, right. I think it's all the same thing. But it kind of stinks that he would say these things while he's admitting, look, all right, let's just finish the interview. I find it interesting that as soon as we get done talking about that, and they're laughing while they're saying aliens who have far greater technology than what we can even understand. That's been established for 100 years. But it's so funny. They're laughing it up. Okay, look, we don't have to take it seriously. They've got one more question, though, and you would think that they would finish with the most important question.
No, I can't let you go without one final question. The last question.
All right.
Would you rather run against Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris, or AOC?
Oh, God.
I want you to stop and think about how you would react if you were vice president. Is that how you would act if someone asked you about alien life visiting us on this planet? And is that how we, as, let's say, reporters, as news people trying to actually get the truth for the populace, is that how we run an interview? They're talking about alien life visiting us with superior technology, and then they're saying the vice president says they are aliens in his opinion, and then we get to the most important thing, which is, who would you rather run against next election cycle? That's 3 years away. What is wrong with us? What is wrong with humans that we think that's the way? How are they joking about? How is this such a light-hearted talk? Why aren't we serious about these things? Is it because we're scared and we're running away from it? Why aren't we taking this more seriously? Why isn't he taking this more seriously? And why would you think aliens are definitely demons? Okay, now listen. There are alien abductions that happen. Well-documented, horrifying, horrific, traumatizing alien abductions. I've talked to plenty of people who, when they describe what's happened to them, you might think, yes, aliens have abducted them, and it's clear what happened here. But just like there is a movie called Independence Day where the aliens are coming to invade and kill us all, there's another movie called Close Encounters of the Third Kind where the aliens are coming saying, we know we're probably scaring you, but we're here to communicate with you. Yes, when you think about all of the cattle mutilations that we assume were done by aliens or something like that, we don't know what's doing these cattle mutilations, but we can assume, because in every cattle mutilation, when you do the examination of the cattle mutilation, there are some of the cuts, if you will, in the cattle that are done, that appear to be done with a jagged edge. And then there are some cuts that are done with such precision that we cannot explain how it's happening. And then there's no blood. There's an entire cow, a big old cow that has been just mutilated, and there's no blood on the ground. Well, how about this? On September 16th, 1994, at a school in Zimbabwe, 1994. To people like me, that almost wasn't that long ago, right? At a school in Zimbabwe, 62 children, I had to check my numbers here, 62 children and some teachers witnessed a flying saucer land, what they referred to as thinking that they were alien beings, came out of the craft and talked to them telepathically and told them, you're killing the earth. You have to change your ways for Mother Earth. You have to be better at caring for your environment and the place that you live. And then they got back in their craft and they flew away. Does that sound demonic to you? There have been plenty of moments where these things that we could see as aliens seemed pretty uncaring about human beings. But then there have been times where they seemed very caring. Not usually about human beings, but caring about the earth. I have a suspicion that this administration is going to try and release what they know, selectively release what they want to about the UAP, alien UFO phenomenon. And they're going to say that the aliens don't care at all about humans, and they see us as a resource that they like to use, that they mine. I think that we all need to prepare for what disclosure, the different forms that it could take. Because most of us, I think, have a natural instinct to imagine that these are ETs from the movie E.T., that these are extraterrestrials who are trying to love us, that these are the Close Encounters aliens and not the Independence Day aliens. But as always, we've got to try to look at the truth, try to get past the need for deception, and also the need for people who haven't studied the phenomenon, their need to try to explain it through their own lens. You know, John E. Mack, who founded the John Mack Institute, John Mack interviewed those children that were at that Zimbabwe school. You can go find these interviews on YouTube. Look it up on Wikipedia. He interviewed all of them. And then they interviewed them again as adults. You can find those interviews too. I highly suggest that anyone who's interested in possible disclosure by people like J.D. Vance and Donald Trump, go do your own research. Look into what these, what these interviews entailed and what these children saw, what they experienced. Some researchers, by the way, about that school sighting, that school interaction that the aliens came and talked to all these kids, the researchers said, well, that was mass hysteria. 62 children plus some teachers all had the same experience, and they explain it as mass hysteria. Why? Why did they do that? Because they weren't ready. They were too afraid to see it as any other possible thing. Why did they explain it like that? Their reason for the mass hysteria, because you can't just say, well, 62 people probably had a mass hysterical event. The reason that they claimed that this happened was because of a fireball that was in the sky during that time that was reported by many people. There was a giant fireball in the sky, and it made these 62 children all see the same exact hallucination. Wow. Have you ever heard the story about swamp gas? Turns out that fireball was actually just the Zenit 2 rocket that was re-entering the atmosphere. I guess maybe that rocket re-entering the atmosphere caused 62 children to all have this exact same hallucination at the exact same time and report it all in the exact same way. And then when they were interviewed as adults, they all said the same thing. Does that sound like demonic behavior to you? And now, sports. In sports, one man had a ball. Another man had a different ball. A bunch of men had balls. Thank you for watching Normal Guy News Episode 4. Please remember to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And remember, if you're not afraid, you're not watching enough news.